This is Con Carne, presented by Alex Ross Art. You can find Alex Ross on YouTube by visiting at the Alex Ross Art, and that way you can keep up to date with one of the comics industry's most important and celebrated creators. Here's Alex Ross.
Hi, this is Alex Ross. I appreciate you guys supporting our YouTube, and we create new content every week. I hope you will continue to support us, and please subscribe.
It's Con Carne. Let's eat in the car. It's Con Carne. And now here's the star of our show, James Van Alstyne.
Con Carne is also sponsored by Easy Automation. Safety and security are things you and I want, need, and expect. What if you could always come home to a well-lighted house knowing that you and everyone inside were safe? Or know that the package you were waiting on was delivered and secured? Embrace the future of smart living. Empower your home with intuitive control. Call my guy Dan at Easy Automation for a free, no-hassle quote, 630-730-3728, or visit easy-automation.net. So this is something different for Con Carne. I'm not in a car. I'm not eating food. This is a dip into my archives. I'm sharing a chat dating back to 2006. This one with Rob Dickinson of Catherine Wheel. Now, if you remember, Catherine Wheel delivered 5 full-length albums in their day, starting with Ferment in 1992 and wrapping up with Wishville in 2000. So back in August 2006, Rob Dickinson of Catherine Wheel was touring behind his one and only solo album, Fresh Wine for the Horses, and we talked about where Catherine Wheel went and where Rob was heading at the time. I thought you'd appreciate this look back, and as I share this interview from my past, I wanted to mention that this podcast will be making a huge announcement right around the 1st of February, so days away from when I'm recording this. Anyway, Rob Dickinson.
And Rob, people know you most famously as the voice of Catherine Wheel for many years.
That was who I voiced. Yes, I voiced the Catherine Wheel.
You did a fabulous job. What happened with Catherine Wheel? Because you guys just kind of
just stopped, didn't we? Our manager described it as us being parked. We parked the group, and we've left the car under an underpass somewhere, and it has yet to be restarted. But you never know. But I think we stopped. We recorded our last album in 2000. It was called Wishville. I think we stopped because we didn't feel people were probably paying much attention to us anymore. I think every band has its natural arc of creativity and stuff, and I think we felt we'd probably gone as far as we could go at that time. But it was, we're all good friends, and everyone's still talking, and it's now I'm doing my solo stuff. It's after 5 years, it's amazing that so many people remember the band with fondness. I was warmly and heartily surprised that the band was still in people's focus. Well,
and I would be one of those people. I mean, to me, Catherine Wheel was one of those bands in the 90s, a classic example of always the bridesmaid, never the bride.
Yes, really, wasn't it? All these, Radiohead used to open up for us, and The Verve used to open up for us, and Placebo, and they all did a lot better than we did ultimately. But it was at the time that was rather difficult for us to take. But in hindsight, I'm a big, everything happens for a reason, and I think we made some great records. And I think part of the reason we made some great records was that we never had the enormous burden of a huge selling record to repeat. And we went into I think we were one of the last bands to be given money by record companies as a long-term proposition. So we went into the studio each time to make records to please ourselves, really, which is rather an old-fashioned way of and obviously the way that a rock band should be allowed to grow. And we certainly did grow, and we became something far more interesting, I think, at the end than we were when we started, which I think is probably the aim of most rock bands.
Should you have stopped before Wishville, or did you think that was the right time?
No, I think it was the right time to stop. I think Wishville was a great record for me. I think it's got some of our finest songs on it. I'm glad we stopped when we did. I think if we ever reconvene, I think it would be a good starting point to restart things at, and maybe make another record in the future. But we're certainly not putting a timetable on that or anything. So we'll see.
So what did you do? Years of downtime in between Catherine Wheel and the solo album. Did you take up a hobby?
Swanned around with supermodels, that kind of stuff.
Are you making that up, or did you really?
No, I'm making that up. I moved to New York. As soon as the band, we did our last. Interestingly, we did our last show in November 2000 in England, opening up for the Smashing Pumpkins,
which was one of their last shows, coincidentally.
And straight after that show, they jumped on a plane. I think came back and did their last show at the Metro. I think was it?
It was at Metro.
Yeah. And then I jumped on a plane myself and moved to New York. And I really wanted to change the scenery. And I knew I wanted to have a new horizon. And I was in New York for 2 or 3 years, slowly writing songs. With a plan to make a solo record, but with I knew that there was no great clamoring for a Rob Dickinson solo record. So, but I made one nonetheless. But I found myself having to move to LA to do it, and I kind of stayed in LA, having become rather sick of New York at that point. So not sick of it. I was just over it.
And the solo album is called Fresh Wine for the Horses. And I think people who may have followed Catherine Wheel for years might be surprised that the album, I think, it feels like a more subdued affair than Catherine Wheel traditionally.
Subdued? I'm not sure it's subdued. I mean, it certainly hasn't quite got quite as many grinding guitars on it, but it has its hopefully it's a record which has some, dare I say it, some depth to it. I think if you stick with it, there's some moments on it which I think will be familiar to people who like the Catherine Wheel. But
it's an emotional album. I mean, I hear emotion in it, but it's not swirling feedbacky guitars.
No, it's not. Well, because I felt I'd done that, and the test for me was always my mother. I'd play a song to my mother, and she says, "Rob, you got such a nice voice. Why do you have to have all that bloody noise behind you and all those guitars? Why don't you turn those down a little bit?" And I started to take some of that advice from my mother. I thought, well, maybe you could turn the vocals up a little bit. So it's a good balance, I think, and I think one of the reasons I wrote, as you can imagine, in 4 years, I wrote a lot of songs, and it was, as usual, I just picked the best songs. I wasn't too concerned with how they were going to be interpreted or presented. I wanted a bunch of songs which kind of represented how I was as an individual at that point, and these were the songs that popped out,
Well, as a point of familiarity for old fans coming on board, I think The Storm would be like a good point of entry for the new album for old Catherine Wheel fans.
Absolutely, definitely.
All right, so you're going to go next door and play a couple songs, and one of them will be a Catherine Wheel song.
One of them will be a Catherine Wheel song, and I'm going to do a song called Oceans, which is on the new record as well, which I think is going to be, I don't know, a single maybe. We'll see.
Nice. All right, well, Rob Dickinson, Go Next Door. We're glad you're here this morning.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I can't share music on the podcast, but it goes without saying that Rob sounded pretty amazing. Thank you for listening to Con Carne. Like I said, huge announcement on the way, and it's one that'll make a lot of sense once you hear it. Next up, I'll be back behind the wheel with the guys behind Smashed Plastic, which is the only record pressing plant in the state of Illinois. They really go to great lengths to take care of local independent musicians. The work they do is top-notch. They're celebrating their 5th anniversary. I'll be talking with them next on Con Carne. In between now and then, please visit carconcarne.com for more information. And thanks again.